Can you believe we're here, another Christmas, another year? For some of you, you're like, yes, it's Christmas. And for others of you, it's like, Christmas again. And generally, the people that go, it's Christmas again, you guys probably have to do most of the cooking, hey? Or like most of the setup, or most of the organizing, or most of the bringing together and the cleanup. And I get it. Like, when you're a kid, Christmas is magical. Food appears, presents appear. It's like, how does it all happen? And then as you get older, you go, that's how it happens. And you become the person that has to make it happen. And then that's a joy, isn't it? A joy that you get to make Christmas magical for other people along the way. So for this Christmas service, I just want to give a short message as we conclude our series Away in a Manger. And I want to acknowledge up front that for some of you, especially if you're a part of our church or if you're a part of another church, you would have heard sermons through most of the year. But for some of you, today might be the only sermon you hear for this year or message that you get to hear. And I just want to acknowledge up front, thank you so much for coming along, everyone, to get to spend a bit of time over Christmas focusing in on Jesus. I think it's really great. And whoever brought you along this evening, hopefully they hook you up with some goodies afterwards and takes you out for some treat or something. Or we're just glad that you're here with us. Have you ever been lost before? Time to time, we get lost. Sometimes we're driving to a new location and we just lose our way. Sometimes we go to a place and we have to park the car and it's like one of those multi-story parkings and you're not familiar and you park your car and you think it should be on this level and you're lost. You can't find where that is. Or perhaps you're out hiking and you're on a new trail and you look at the map and you look at where you are and you go, this is not right. We all get lost sometimes in life. We all get lost. But it's not always in the areas of just driving or hiking or losing your car. Sometimes we also get a little bit lost in other areas of life. Perhaps you had a dream of where you wanted to be with your health, and then you got on the scales and you looked in the mirror and you went, I'm not there yet. Or perhaps you hoped to be in a certain place financially. And you thought to yourself, I want to be somewhere financially. And then all of a sudden, you got an afterpay account and your debts are piling up and you think, I'm not where I want to be. Or perhaps you wanted to be in a better place in relationship to your children or perhaps to your parents, but you're at another Christmas time and you're thinking the tension is still there. When we get lost, we all need a little bit of help finding our way. When we're lost physically, it's as simple as getting your phone and going to Google Maps. But when we're lost in those bigger areas, the deeper areas that matter in life, sometimes we just need help seeing what way to go. When Jesus made the claim 2,000 years ago where he said, I am the way, I believe that his way is something that can help us in all areas of life. And today we're just going to have a quick look at Jesus' way of love. And in fact, one of the songs we sang before was said to teach people his way, and his way is the way of love and peace. So baby Jesus, 2,000 years ago, was born in a manger. We've seen a couple of tellings this evening around how that could have happened. And because he was born, we get to celebrate Christmas. So we get to have presents and fun and family because of that. Now, when baby Jesus was born, he had about 30 years of just living life. So for 30 years, Jesus got born, and then he was living his life, learning his father's trade, we got one story when he's a kid. But when he turned 30 years old, he started to do what we would call the Jesus-y things. The things we think about when we think about Jesus: healing, multiplying food, all the teaching that he does, and all of the ways he gathers crowds. That happened when he was about 30 years old. So from 30 to 33, Jesus was going around teaching and multiplying food and gathering crowds and healing people, when all of a sudden he knew he was about to go to the cross, which is the story of Easter. But before he went to the cross, he got his pals together and they shared a meal together, and he said some words to them. This is something that he said, which is really important. He said to them, guys, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. He's basically saying the God who created everything, who wants to know all of his creation, he can be known. And the way to know him is through me. So that's what he was saying. But what is this way of Jesus, and how do we live this out? I believe that Jesus' way is the way of love. Have we heard that phrase before? The way of love, to do the loving thing. So let me define love quickly so that we're all sort of on the same page. I believe that love is something that happens when you put the needs of the person who is opposite you above your own. Love is something that when you say no to you so you can say yes to them, that is showing the other person that you love them. Love is an emotion and it's a feeling, definitely, but it's always founded on the choice of you elevating someone else above yourself. In fact, Jesus laid the foundation of love just a little bit earlier. Before he said this, that he was the way, the truth, and the life, he said, I'm giving you a new command. I want you guys to love each other, and I want you to do it really, really well. So he defined the standard of love, and he said, a new command I give you, love one another, not as much as they deserve it or as much as they have loved you first. He says, I want you guys to love each other. And the standard which it is going to be is as Jesus have loved you, you must love one another. And the standard was set pretty high because right before he said these words, he was with his group of people and he got down and he washed their feet. And he demonstrated that he loves them through his actions. And then during the Easter story, he showed his ultimate love by choosing to put his life aside for the lives of the whole entire world. So Jesus commanded everybody in that room, and by extension, every person through history who say, hey, we want to follow Jesus. This way of love has been something which he's laid the foundation of as a command. Jesus highlighted for us the fact that in the Old Testament is the recording of how God worked in humanity through the Jewish people. And he said this, that loving God and loving others is the foundation of all of that history. Jesus was questioned by someone and said, what's the most important law and command? How do we love God truly? He said, love God, love other people. So Jesus gave us a new command, which he said is based on love and how you love others. Jesus showed us that the Old Testament is all about how we love God and love other people. And there's also another person, a guy called Paul, who basically built most of the early church. And he confirmed, love is definitely the way we should live. He said this in Romans 13. He said, love does not harm its neighbors. Therefore, love is the fulfillment of the law, which makes sense. The reason we put laws in place and the reason we have rules, and parents, you get this with your kids, like the rule is not there just for funsies, right? It's to help guide your kid to do the right thing. The reason we have laws is not so we can all go, look at those great laws we have. We have them so we can create a societal norm that says we all agree to act within these boundaries. And Paul is saying, well, love in its purest form of how we act, it fulfills all the law because that drives us to do what other people need and to love other people well. And could you imagine for a second how great our world would be if this others first love was central? Let's go into a couple of spaces in your lives. Think about the workplace for a second. I mean, how much more aligned is the workplace when you get the sense that people genuinely care about you? How much more aligned is it? Imagine you're in your workplace and your boss comes down and says, guys, I'm just so thankful for who you are and what you do. I mean, don't you feel empowered by that? On the flip side, haven't we all been in workplaces where we haven't experienced love in the workplace and it just feels like it's a chore and you go, thank goodness for the paycheck, otherwise I would be out of here? When we have this idea of love, of serving other people, that love that says you before me in the workplace, things are just better. Or perhaps in our relationships, when we are in relationships where love is primary, we feel fulfilled and we feel like there's a purpose there. I mean, we've all experienced what it's like for a friend to come alongside you and say, I know I've got a lot going on in my life, but let me first check in with you. How are you going? I mean, how life-giving is that? And on the inverse, we've experienced that friend that comes and before you can even say how hard things are for you, they just dump everything on you and you think, I don't even get a chance to say what I want to say. Or think about your home for a second. Think about your home and how much more peace there is when people say, how can I serve you rather than what can I get? I mean, if you've got teenagers, if you're a parent with teenagers at home, imagine your teenager waking up one morning, coming out of their bedroom and saying, Mom, Dad, before I ask for anything, let me ask you, what can I do for you? Has that ever happened to anyone, just out of curiosity? If it does, write a book, it'll sell. How much more peace-filled is our home when we take this attitude of you before me? Love says you before me, and things just seem to work better. So the Christmas message that I want you to hear this year is that I believe that Jesus loves every single one of you. I believe that Jesus loves every single one of you, and he's inviting you. You can actually follow him in the way of love. He's inviting you to take the way of love into your home, into your workplace, into your friendships, and say you're not always going to get it right, but if you follow me in my example of love, things work really, really well. Jesus isn't as concerned about your background or views on life, or there's certain things that we may feel because of our past history excludes us from being able to participate in following Jesus. But Jesus' invitation to follow him is something that's extended to everybody. It's extended to everyone. When Jesus came to earth as a baby, it wasn't just so we could celebrate Christmas, though that is a great side benefit. When Jesus came to earth as a baby, it was so that he could demonstrate the God of the universe's love for you. So that when he eventually gave up his life, he said, I love you this much. And then he's invited humanity to join him. And for the last 2,000 years, we've seen the best of humanity when we have embraced the way of love. So to finish off, let me get super practical for you. So how does this actually look? Here are some things that I believe that love says. And I recognize some of them appear contradictory. But at the end of the day, love is not prescriptive, is it? Like if you've been married and you know that how you expressed love one way one time, when you go back again and say, well, okay, to show you I love you, I'll do the same thing again. Maybe it doesn't work next time. Or perhaps with your kids, you want to show them how much you love them. You don't do the same thing every time. You look for new ways to do that. The reason is because love is actually active, responsive, and real. So some of these things may seem a little contradictory, but when you apply them, I believe that they make sense. So here are some things that love says. And you've got to apply this to your own life. I can't get into your business, okay? So just think up in your head. Love says this. Love says you go first. Love says, even though I got here first, I want you to go first. Which is hard sometimes, isn't it? Because we were first in line, or we were first to the thing. But love says, no, you go first. Love says, I'm not going to repeat that thought right now. You ever been in a conversation, the intrusive thought goes in there and you blurt it out and you're like, that made everything worse. Love says, you know what? I'm just going to remove that thought and not even put it out into the world. Love says, I need to say something right now. Love says, I need to speak up because something is not right. Love says, let me help you pick up the mess. I didn't cause the mess, but let me come alongside you and let me help you clean up the mess. Love says, look, it wasn't my fault, but I'm going to forgive you and I'm not going to hold it against you. Love says, hey, I need you to know that that thing that you did has actually hurt me. Love sometimes requires us to speak out of when we've been hurt or when we're feeling vulnerable and recognize that and say to the other person, hey, when you said that thing, I didn't like that. Love says, hey, can we get together this Christmas, even if things are a little awkward? Or perhaps love says, this Christmas, I need space from you. It's a hard time right now, and I just need a little bit of space. We'll get together in January or February, but right now is not the time. Love says, I can help you with that. I've got time for that. And this is one which we learn over time, but it's difficult. Love says, I'm actually going to choose not to help you with that. Have you ever been in that situation before? Where love has required you to actually not step in and shield and protect? You'll know when you should do that because you'll feel that's what you should be doing. Love says, let me sit with you in this season of pain and grief, and I'm just going to say nothing. I'm going to offer to go buy you a coffee. I'm going to run food for you. I'm going to go pick up the errands, do whatever it needs. But you're grieving, you're in pain. I'm just going to be with you. But at other times, love says you are in a season of pain and grieving, and I need to speak up. I need to say some things because you need to hear these things. Love says, I'm going to treat you the way that Jesus treated me. And it's different, isn't it? Situation to situation, circumstance by circumstance. What does love require of me depends on what's going on in the moment. But our example of what love looks like has always been Jesus and how Jesus treated the people he was around and how Jesus treats you and me when he was willing to lay down his life for us. He said, you first, me second. So we, as people who follow Jesus, if you're a Jesus follower, we get the honor of being people of love who go, you first, me second. And I think that's pretty cool. When we lose our way, we need to find our way back again. And we need to show that Jesus, and I believe that Jesus is the way that helps us with that. After our service, I want to give all of you a lolly. We won't do it right now, but I want to give everyone a lolly. And it's a little lolly, and it's called a Joy Sticks. And it's one of the ones from Aldi, and thanks, Ruth, for picking it up. Appreciate it. And what I wanted you to do with this lolly is really simple. You can eat it if you want to, sure. And if you're a certain age, you're just going to eat it. I get that. But if you want to participate in something with me, what I want you to do is when you get this lolly after the service, I just want you to put it in your pocket, just hold on to it. And I want you, when you have an opportunity to see someone, go, I'm going to give them this lolly. And the reason for that is I want it to be an opportunity for you to go and say, I've received something which I probably want if you love lollies, but I'm going to choose to give it to somebody else. And when you go and see someone else, I mean, if you want to trade with each other, go for it. But maybe someone who's not here today and be a bit more impactful, but whatever, you do you. I want you to say something along the lines of this. Look, I was given this lolly, but I care more about you and I wanted to know, did you want it? It's just a small gesture. And for some of you, it'll just be a simple thing of, oh, here's a lolly. Someone gave it to me at church and said, I'm not allowed to eat it, so here you go. And that's fine. But if you want to participate, it's an opportunity just to remember in a small form, we've all been given something to share. We've all given something that we can give to other people. And a small act like giving them something of yourself like that goes a long way to showing them that you truly care for them because you're willing to put them first. So I hope you have a Merry Christmas. And I hope your Christmas is filled with the kind of love of people putting you first and you getting the opportunity to put people first. Let me pray for you as the band come up and we'll finish off with some carols. Jesus, thank you so much that you demonstrated your love through action. And thank you that we get to be people of action to demonstrate love to one another. I pray this Christmas that we will have opportunities to care for those around us by being active in the way of love. Whether that means extending something of ourselves or having a tough conversation or sharing something that we want for ourselves rather than having to share, whatever it might be, may we give up our time, energy, and resources to show other people that we see them and that we love them. And may we ask that question, what does love require of me in this moment? In your name and for your glory, amen.